It's honestly surprising how strange the current situation feels like when looking at the newest 3.6 banners, and I think now is the best time to investigate this whole situation. But first, this video is sponsored by Tower Fantasy, and let me tell you, this game is coming out with an insane 2.4 update. There's a new map called THEGRANDSEA, and this is the very first time we see an underwater area designed for open-world anime games. You can literally swim around and explore this new map. Not only are there new fighting mechanics, but you will also navigate and explore many of the new underwater places. Now, the update also brings a new character, Lan, into the game. She's a mysterious character who comes from an unknown dimension and uses this fancy umbrella to unleash some awesome combos. I got to test her out early, and she's super fun to use. She can use these blazing attacks in combination with umbrellas and dish out some crazy damage. And one more new character, Icarus, will also be joining the game later, who uses an icy yo-yo ball. And there's so much more cool stuff coming with this update, like a new boss monster you can fight against with your friends, or you can go on a series of treasure hunts to help you fully explore this new underwater world. This new adventure in THEGRANDSEA will be guided by Icarus and the Executors, and you will meet new and old friends along the way to prepare for the final boss battle of 2.4 story quest. This makes me feel really excited. And if you're new to this game, Tower Fantasy is a shared open-world MMORPG, available both on PC and mobile. You can team up and fight bosses, discover many amazing places, and enjoy cool vehicles and relics among other things, like the power to customize your character any way you want. So make sure to check out Tower Fantasy by using my link in the description or pinned comment, and by doing this, you will also help support my channel big time. So we finally got to take a look at Baizhu's talents from the livestream, and I have some conflicting feelings about him. From what was showcased, it seems like the main benefits using Baizhu would be healing, shielding, boosting reaction damage, and Dendro application, which I assume can be off-field, since it was mentioned the shield can heal any active character. Now, there's a lot to unpack here, so let's first start with the most crucial thing about him, his Dendro shield. On a first look, you might think the shield functions in a similar way as Thoma's, since it gets applied every 2 seconds or so, at least that's how I counted when looking at the footage, but the biggest difference here is that a new shield is refreshed every moment this happens. This suggests to me that this shield is probably going to be easy to break, since one of the big things that this shield does is release a Dendro attack after it either gets broken, expires, or becomes refreshed. But is that a bad thing? Not really. The awesome thing about shields is that no matter how much damage you take, even if the shield gets broken, you won't get staggered. It basically acts as a super armor, so as an example, I could use 1 stack of Thoma's shield here, which barely absorbs any damage, and my active character still won't get staggered by a big attack that deals remaining damage and breaks the shield. More importantly, breaking the shield also means applying Dendro on enemies, since that's one of the ways Baizhu can apply Dendro when using this unique mechanic. Now, the first character that comes to my mind who would benefit a lot from this would be Cyno. It's no secret his resistance to interruption is really bad, and it was one of my main complaints back when I first reviewed him. So getting this shield, even if it gets broken by enemy attacks, it will still consistently provide him resistance to interruption, and the shield gets refreshed every few seconds or so. Obviously, one thing that matters a lot here is how long does the shield last overall, meaning how many times it will refresh. In the livestream footage, I was able to count to almost 14 seconds, so at the minimum, 14 seconds is pretty decent with all things considered. However, my biggest concern right now about Baizhu would be his Dendro application. Now, it's really hard to see from this footage, but it looks like only one missile gets shot when the shield breaks, expires, or refreshes, and it doesn't look like it has AoE. Maybe if enemies are grouped, I don't know. So this will become clear once I can actually test him out. But the thing is, assuming these missiles are single target, relying on them in teams like Burgeon isn't that great, since you want to apply Dendro in AoE to maintain consistent Burgeon procs. Still, this is mostly speculation right now, but to me, it looks like Baizhu is going to be compared more to Yao Yao than Nahida. Both of them are healers, both apply Dendro, but in Yao Yao's case, while her elemental skill Dendro application isn't that great, it is pretty awesome when using her burst, although you are restricted to keeping her on field, which I mean for some teams it's a plus, like when using her as a Hyperbloom driver. Speaking of which, one cool thing that was shown in the text here was that Baizhu will boost reaction damage for characters who are getting healed by the shield. Now keep in mind, if this is true, then that means off-field characters who cause things like bloom reactions won't benefit from this, so the character will need to be on-field to enjoy this boost. But how strong is this boost? I'm not sure yet, although it is important to consider this. Honestly, the burst and the shielding mechanic is the biggest takeaway about him from the stream. The elemental skill seems pretty simple, it just deals damage and can jump between enemies. Hopefully each jump has a separate ICD, if not, then it's a bit of a letdown, but as I understand, it will will also heal the team when the missile comes back, and even for world exploration, you will be able to get healed when picking up the materials, which is a nice and unique way to further give flavor to this Bubu Pharmacy owner. I mean, the Statue of the Seven is finally getting power creep, right? All in all, I like the way Baizhu was presented. I have some concerns about his Dendro application if it turns out to be he's only good at applying its single target, but at the same time, I can see people who use Cyno getting a kick out of him, and the shielding mechanic plus healing is kind of a future-proof design that will remain relevant for a long time in the game. It's also great that he's a Catalyst user, which means he can act as a driver for Hyper Bloom teams, and if it turns out he's healing scales with health and he has energy problems, since Hoyo loves slapping high energy costs on everyone these days, then Prototype Amber will be a great option for him, since it can restore 18 energy at full refinement. But as always, things in theory not always turn out to be the same when it is time to use the character, so I'll be sure to provide my full analysis once he is available. The bar for 4-star characters has been set very low, thanks to recent releases like Mika, Dori, and Farazan. It seems like Hoyo either likes to release characters that are super weird, like Dori, and then there's Farazan and Mika, who are just whale bait thanks to their C6 while barely functioning at C0. Thankfully, from the way Kaveh got showcased during the livestream, it seems like he has his own thing going. Basically, his elemental skill deals AoE damage and then triggers all Dendro cores to explode around him, while the burst, it does the same thing as the skill, except it also provides Dendro infusion and boosts his combat capabilities, whatever that means, since it was mentioned this way in the stream. Now, assuming he can explode Dendro cores by only using the skill and burst after activation, you would think he is a 4-star wannabe Nilou, but after doing some thinking, I don't really believe that's the case. Like, the thing with Nilou is that, first of all, everyone in the team can cause Dendro cores to explode immediately, and they explode during a long buff duration. There's no need to use skills or burst, well, besides Nilou's skill to activate the actual buff for the team, and there's a ton of explosions happening when using Nilou teams. Whereas with Kaveh, I imagine he will trigger the instant explosion only a few times because of the way his kit works. Also, it doesn't say anywhere if these instant bloom explosions gain damage boost, unless the part with the hosts of the livestream state that his combat capabilities are enhanced, but even then, bloom by itself is a weak reaction. It doesn't deal that much damage, and there's a reason why Hyper Bloom or Burgeon are superior upgrades. The only reason Bloom looks good with Nilou is because of her team-wide buff, which helps create bountiful cores instead and explode for far more damage. But I think it's a good thing if it turns out Kaveh doesn't cause that many Dendro core instant explosions by himself, because then you can integrate him into Hyper Bloom or even Burgeon teams as an on-field damage dealer. Sure, he will hijack few of those Dendro cores by himself, but gaining Dendro infusion means he can consistently create new Dendro cores and apply Dendro himself. It's actually funny, but if you think about it, Kaveh's playstyle looks more similar to Alhaitham's than Nilou's, and it kinda makes sense since they both have an ongoing friendship lore-wise. Well, a friendship of a bitter old couple, but still. Overall, I think I'll first need to see how well he works with Nilou together, and then test his Bloom teams to come to a solid conclusion. However, I can easily see him working in Hyper Bloom, Quicken, and probably even Burgeon teams, since gaining on-field Dendro application with his Claymore is a really solid ability. I've been saying this for a while now, but we definitely needed a true 4-star Dendro on-field damage dealer. Oh, and one more thing about him is that he actually gets to heal himself when taking damage from Bloom explosions. I think it's a cool passive talent, but if running in Nilou teams, where everyone is getting swapped in constantly, you'll still probably need a healer to survive. So self-healing does not equal to keeping the whole team alive. Although I am super interested to see how well he would do as an on-field Burgeon driver, since those explosions inflict a lot of self-damage. Either way, I'm really looking forward to Kaveh's release, and what's awesome is that both him and Baizhu will be on the same featured banner, which brings us to this next part. So you probably saw how insanely stacked the 3.6 banners are, and I'm not gonna lie, putting Nahida and Nilou in the first phase of the update seems like a really aggressive decision by Hoyoverse to pouch everyone's wallets. I mean, if you're a player who cares about the meta, or at least wants to improve their account and clear the abyss with 36 stars, then hands down, the best character to wish for in this update is Nahida. She just does so much as a character, it's not even funny. Not long ago, I made a video about top Dendro teams based on Chinese community data, and Nahida was absolutely dominating. She was basically there in every single team, but there is one tiny exception to this. You see, no matter how good Nahida is, you can't just split her into two and use in different teams. However, since both Kaveh and Baizhu will be available on a single banner in second phase of the update, if it turns out they are both pretty solid characters, and assuming you manage to get both of them from wishing with your primos, then it might be worth it. But then again, you will also need double the resources to level them up, and most importantly, it's a gamble. I'm not sure how good they are, so I'll just leave leave it at that. Otherwise, there's also Nilou and Ganyu you could go for. When it comes to Nilou, there's too much that needs to be said about her, so I'll leave this for the next video, but in short, she's good and also niche, and more importantly, it locks you into a very unique style that I'm not sure if everyone will enjoy. And as for Coco Goat, I mean, it's Ganyu. She's had quite a few reruns already. You pull for her if you think you'll enjoy Melt and or Freeze gameplay, and if you have Nahida, you can go for Burning Melt comp as well. All in all, I would say that there's still a lot we don't know about the update, like who will be the future 4-stars in both of the phases, and how good Baizhu and Kaveh turn out to be. But at the same time, this 3.6 patch is going to be dominated by Dendro characters once more, and it's a great time to grab at least one of them if you're still not using any Dendro in your teams. The obvious choice is Nahida, but in the end, it's only a meta choice. So if you don't care about the Abyss and have no problem skipping the first phase and saving up the primos, then more power to you. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed my video. I would be grateful if you could help me out by pressing the link in the description or pinned comment and check out Tower of Fantasy. Thanks again, and see you next time.